Hey, what is up, Mistwood Publishing Patreons? This is the beginning of your first bi-weekly video of the month of 2. Not feeling the greatest today, but, I'm still going to do it, right? Office is a little bit of a mess. Today I was planning on doing quite a bit of stuff, but just, going down there and spreading micro topping down on the basement, and going to Home Depot and buying all that stuff, just don't really feel like physically able to do that today. But it's still going to happen, obviously. I'll probably go into Home Depot sometime tomorrow when I'm already in town, because it makes more sense that way anyway. But today I wanted to talk about the religions of Fostra. We're starting a series on the religions of Fostra, and so we're going to kind of adventure through the different parts of Fostra, because there's so many different parts that have all of these different religions and beliefs, some of which, I have empty on purpose so that I can create them later. Who knows, maybe in this video I'll be making religions that will appear in the books later on. Who knows? Maybe ideas will come to me. But I do have a certain amount already that are fleshed out, some more than others. So the first one to start with is obviously the main religion, right? And that is the religion that we see the most amongst at least the main characters that I have made with Elion and Narbad, and that is the worship of Gesu, which derives a lot of inspiration from Christianity and Judaism, and a mix of a few other things. It's not exactly Christianity and Judaism. There's not really church services. I mean, there are in certain areas, but it's not the same way that we consider it. There's not a Bible, right? There's a holy text that is a collection of teachings, but it's more of proverbs, it's just a bunch of moral teachings on what is acceptable and what isn't. There's not a I guess there could be. I could make it to where there's a holy book that outlines the historical parts of Ragnarok and such. It's not actually a bad idea, but as of right now I don't have that. There's nothing like that. And I kind of got that from the Vikings a little bit, because they didn't actually have a physical structure that they would go to on a weekly basis and worship. I mean, they just didn't have it, right? So Gesu is, the characters in the books don't know this with 100% certainty, but as a reader you kind of do, that Gesu is the one true God. He is the guy who made everything. And I know that some books, they kind of like Narnia, Our World still exists, and Narnia is a different dimension, or Lord of the Rings, where apparently Middle Earth is this Earth, but way, way long ago, before archaeology could even go back that far. But I don't know. I kind of just want my books to be more like the Forgotten Realms, in the sense that it is just completely separate. But I do have an idea, that God, Gesu, did create the universe, and that Fostra, we have Earth, but then we have Fostra, which would be, this is just an idea, which would be almost like when you die on this Earth. Let's say you weren't a Christian, or you wouldn't go to heaven, right? Fostra is kind of like purgatory in the sense, but for people that didn't believe in God, they're kind of given a second chance to find a way to get into heaven, right? Believing in Jesus. Not that Jesus really is on Fostra, right? But it's a loose idea that I've been working on. I don't know if, but anyway, Fostra is kind of the gate to heaven or hell. When you die on Earth, you would go to Fostra, and you would go to Himen, or you would go into the Typhoon that is hell. So it's kind of like the planet that's the portal to the afterlife. And Elion or whoever is there is reborn when they die on Earth there as kind of a second chance to reach heaven, right? That's a loose idea that I've always considered that I might go with, I might not, and that is some very, very inside information that only I haven't even told my wife. So, I mean, again, I don't know if I'm going to go with that. We'll just decide. I mean, I've always been kind of attached to that idea, but, you know, we'll see. But basically, Gesu worship is the worship in the one God, the creator God, Gesu, who, you know, everybody in Phostra recognizes that, well, not everybody. There is a group of, few individual groups of atheists sort of thing, but most people recognize that Gesu did exist at one point. But most of the religions in Phostra either think that he's dead or he was a false leader, or that just because he's the creator doesn't mean he's the right one to follow. But that main religion, they do follow Gesu, and he's the guy that made Rollo and Vandir, made the Griffins. You've read all of this in the Sylvan Mist when Gildor's having that chai tea with Elion. But it's kind of like the practice of that religion. So like Elion believes in Gesu, Narvad believes in Gesu, they believe in this one God who has these laws and what's right and wrong kind of articulated, which is very similar, obviously, to what Christianity and Judaism tout as right and wrong. And so you also have the angels, right? Which, in this way, I've combined Christianity with kind of a Native American or Chinese religious makeup, to where a lot of times they have a lot smaller, like thousands and thousands of smaller gods. So I kind of took the concept of those gods and mixed them with the concept of angels. So Gesu makes Rollo and Vandir, and they have sons, right, that are griffins, and they can change shape if they want to, but their original shape is a griffin. And so they're kind of like the angels, but then they fall. Vandir, discovers a way to harness the darker energies of the universe, which I'll go into depth onto that when I do the religion that is the dark, those that worship Vandir. And he kind of advertises to people like, look, there's this power that I have that you can access without asking for permission from God. He's trying to hold you back. So he kind of comes across this opportunity to grab power and then sees this. And I would say he legitimately believes that he's doing the right thing and freeing these people from the oppression of God. And so they become his followers, and, then Vandir, in his bitterness, kills Yggdrasil, the tree of life, God's first, creation of life. Alright, so then Gesu raises the army and officially, declares war, like he's going to take Vandir out. Enough is enough. I've promised not to intervene with the free wills of people, but this is enough. So you have the War of Ragnarok, right? And I'll go into kind of the history of that time period in the other video series that we're starting, which will be your second bi-weekly video. Bi-weekly. So the second video of the month will be about Ragnarok and that big historical event and creation and everything. Those that followed Gesu in Ragnarok were brought out of Verdurn, which was the southern continent, which we will go there in the books several times. And so they moved to Phostra to kind of have a new beginning. And in that, the religion of Gesu kind of changes and other religions are made. But how it is currently is you have, because you can get, that's how magic, the pure magic comes from. You don't really see it that much in the Sylvan Mist, but in the Veil of Stars and Saga 2 especially, you'll see a lot more of the magic of Phostra and a lot more world building. And so basically what that magic is, because part of the things I'm going to do with these religion videos is explain if there's a magical source that comes from it, is, Gesu is God. He created everything. He's omnipresent, omnipowerful, right? He's everything, right? And so if there's somebody who knows the arcane prayers, like they have to have a specific word combination that is a prayer in the old ancient language, and if they say it in their, in their head or out loud, or it depends on the spell, arcane prayer, if it is not so much if it's God's will, but if it helps to further His will. So like if somebody's dying and you pray for healing and it doesn't go against His plans for the world, it will heal them if you say it right. And of course, in my belief, God doesn't want us to suffer and die, so most of the time it's going to heal that person. If a priest is, there's a building on fire and there's people in there and he needs to use an arcane prayer that he knows that will put out the fire, I believe God wouldn't want that house to burn down, so the water is going to do that. It doesn't mean that God is, sitting, Gesu is sitting on his throne and like okaying every cleric's arcane prayer. It's more of, as long as it doesn't go against God's moral code, then it will be approved. He doesn't necessarily sit there and have to approve every one. So like if a cleric was using like a hypnotism spell or something to like manipulate somebody else into doing, giving them indulgences or something like that, bringing into kind of like Martin Luther there, it wouldn't work because that's not something that God would approve of. So that's kind of why Vandir wanted, he's kind of offering this, because you can do whatever you want, more freedom with the magic, and that's why people were drawn to that. But with Gesu, you have three different types of followers, right? You have, the general population, right? That's Elion, Narbad. They believe in Gesu. They count him as their religion, but they're not a priest or whatever. They're like you and me. We're not pastors, or we're not priests. But then in my world, you have priests, which are more of what we would consider a priest, right? But they might know like 2 or 3 arcane prayers, like a healing prayer, and then maybe something for self-defense, right? And then they might have like a holy symbol, which I have my holy symbol made, but you'll find that out later what that is. I don't want to spoil it. And then the third type is a cleric, which is honestly my favorite type, other than, like the normal person. But a cleric is like a battle priest. Like they have, going back to the Chinese Native American part of the religion, that there are all of these gods, after, I totally skipped this part, I'm going back to that, and then I'll come back to this. It's a mess, I'm not feeling very well, but, So after Vandir falls and, Ragnarok happens, Gesu kind of has to create new angels, right? And that's the Gima, right? That's Grohl, that's Elsa. You see a few of them in the Sylvan Mist. Vaguely, you'll see a lot more in the Veil of Stars. But they kind of take from Native American and local Chinese religions where they believe there would be a guardian to like a specific river, or a guardian to a specific forest, right? So the more powerful Gima, like Elsa, she is the Gima of all forests. But Grohl is the Gima of the specific Mistwood. So there's different tiers of these angels, right? And so that's combining those two kind of religions on our earth into one, into Fostra. But then going back to the cleric stuff, so each Gima has like a specific field that they would specialize in and could teach clerics arcane prayers in their field. So Grohl is going to have arcane prayers that are more about nature and manipulating vines and trees. He has a strong connection to Yggdrasil, which is the Valnot, Elion's armor, which is why he's the one protecting them, right? He's the one in the oasis. But like Elsa she specializes in protector of the forest, but also hunting. So she has a lot of things that are like ranger-like skills. And so a cleric might, they worship Gesu, but they might specialize in one of the guardians or, archangels, right? So there are Gema of minerals, like there's Gema of fire, ice, all of that stuff. So like case in point, there is a character in Saga 1 that is a high elf cleric. His name is Linod. He's a high elf cleric, and he specializes in fire. So he looks at the Gema of fire, studies under the masters, other clerics that specialize in that, if not the actual Gema himself. Linod is one of the highest ranking fire specialized clerics in the organization, so he probably would have learned from the head, the Gema himself, right? So then they'd be a priest, but they would wear like robes. They're basically like a Christian version of like a wizard almost, or like a paladin, right? In D&D. And so like Linod has a Yari staff, which is like an Asian weapon that is like a shorter spear with like 2 blades and then a really long spearhead. That is both his staff, which can use fire abilities if he says the right arcane prayer, and it's also a weapon. So he's literally like a warrior priest. And that's kind of what a cleric is. They're more of like the offensive, like out there, they're like gods, wizards, And then you have the priests, and then you have the regular people. And I might do another video on this specific religion because I feel like I was really scatterbrained. Because I'm not feeling very well, but my camera's about to die, so I hope this was interesting for you. Maybe I'll revisit it, maybe like ask questions on like what you want to know more about it, because again, I feel like I was really scatterbrained, and I will explain more of like Ragnarok and the beginning and the creation and the Gema and things like that in the next video, which will be probably released in like a week and a half or 2 weeks, right? Around Christmas time, I guess. I'll probably have a bonus video this month because it is Christmas. Probably some kind of a video of me downstairs working on the basement or something, some deal or something special, I don't know. Because you guys are my patron. You, just one person is my patron at the moment. And, we want to reward you for that, so thank you. Have a lovely weekend, have a good day. If you want to see Rolo, he's here. I'm not going to move him because he's temperamental. But there he is. Being fat. Have a lovely day. Peace out. Rolo, you're awesome. And you're fat. We love you.